Gen Z is obsessed with Snoopy, the patron saint of being tired and dramatic. A tiny dog who sleeps on his roof, avoids responsibility, and somehow ends up on half the merch on the internet. But what if I told you that this little beagle shares an unexpected lineage with a 1939 story written on the dawn of another world war? A story about a man who escapes the pressure of real life by slipping into elaborate fantasies of heroism. James Thurber's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Let's start with some history. The 1930s brought the Great Depression, a time of hardship that sparked America's longing for heroes. In 1939, as World War II began, James Thurber published The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which captured that yearning. The war ended in 1945, and by 1952, Charles Schulz introduced Peanuts, a comic born into Cold War uncertainty. When the Vietnam War erupted in 1955, American ideals of heroism were tested yet again. In 1965, Schulz gave us Snoopy's World War I Flying Ace, a playful yet poignant reflection of a nation still at war, until the conflict finally ended in 1975. The 20th century in America was an age of ambition and anxiety. Early optimism collapsed under World War I and the Great Depression, leaving ordinary Americans searching for meaning in uncertain times. James Thurber, a humorist, captured this quiet frustration and the need to escape through imagination. After World War II, America entered a new era of optimism and power, shadowed by Cold War and Vietnam War anxiety. Charles M. Schulz, a cartoonist and also a humorist, reflected this tension through his comic Peanuts. Part 3. The Works. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, originally published in The New Yorker, portrays an unremarkable man who retreats into elaborate fantasies of heroism to cope with the monotony and powerlessness of his ordinary life, revealing the quiet discontent beneath modern existence. Thurber opens with Walter Mitty heroically commanding a Navy crew in stormy skies, only to reveal it's all in his head. In reality, he's just driving into town with his wife for errands, forgetting the shopping list and fumbling with parking. As the day goes on, Mitty escapes into more fantasies: a maverick surgeon, a deadly assassin, a daring British RAF pilot, and every time, he never triumphs. Peanuts, briefly subtitled Good Old Charlie Brown, is a 15-year syndicated daily and Sunday comic strip that follows a group of children and their dog Snoopy, bears their everyday struggles and their profound, often melancholic observations about life and society. I'll specifically be talking about Snoopy's alter ego named World War I Flying Ace.
His mission is to find the Red Baron and shoot him down. Here's the World War I Flying Ace, climbing into the cockpit of his Sopwith Camel. Contact, he shouts.
Both use comic repetition and episodic structure. Every fantasy resets, revealing the tension between endurance and futility. Thurber starts with the story in medias res, which mirrors the typical structure of a comic strip that bypasses the traditional contextualization and plunges the reader directly into the plot. In The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, Thurber slips real-world tension into the story. At one point, Mitty picks up a copy of Liberty magazine with the headline, "Can Germany Conquer the World Through Air?" a reflection of America's anxiety over Nazi air power during the Spanish Civil War. Thurber's writing comes from the anxieties of the Great Depression and teeters on the edge of World War II, in a world that feared mechanization, shrinking personal control, and the uncertainties of war and economic instability. His mild, overwhelmed characters mirrored a pre-war America quietly panicking beneath the surface. 2 decades later, Schulz channeled a similar cultural anxiety into Snoopy's World War I Flying Ace persona. In the 1960s, as the Vietnam War dragged on, the Flying Ace was deeply charged with Schulz's own experiences as a soldier in World War I. Schulz drew the Flying Ace in various adventures, often being shot down by the Red Baron, the nickname for German fighter pilot Manfred von Richthofen. In one panel, the flying ace is being hauled away by Charlie Brown, his owner, an allusion to the growing number of prisoners of war in Vietnam. Schulz grew increasingly frustrated through his comics. Snoopy often takes breaks to lament the war in a mock French cafe where he sips root beer, which he imagines as champagne or a similar beverage, and dramatically reflects on the conflict. On June 1, 1969, the popular comic strip character uttered the phrase, "Curse this stupid war," and became a slogan of resistance. Snoopy's imaginary dogfights with the Red Baron became increasingly resonant for soldiers in Vietnam. His endless missions, unclear victories, and homesickness felt familiar. His image spread onto helmets, aircraft art, and letters of American troops sent home. Just like Mitty, Snoopy became part of America's cultural record of the war, and narratively, both became imaginative figures shaped by the anxieties of their times. In her book, Dreaming in Dark Times, 6 Exercises in Political Thought, Sharon Slowinski argues that dreams can become spaces of resistance and renewal, like Frantz Fanon's patient's nightmares under colonialism, or the dream that allowed Sarah Kaufman to write about her father who was killed in Auschwitz. For Slowinski, dreaming is exactly this, a profound testimony of the political conditions of man's freedom. Dreams are an unexpected opening in our thinking, a reminder that each of us carries the capacity to imagine, articulate, and reshape what might be possible. Walter Mitty is nagged, ignored, and rendered invisible by the routines of daily life. He is a product of a time period that demands the hypermasculine and the productive. His fantasies are not just daydreaming. They are his psyche's attempt to reclaim agency where he lacks what is demanded. Meanwhile, in the Peanuts universe, time never moves forward. The children never grow up, living in a world where every day feels the same. Despite Snoopy's imagination, he is confined to a small suburban backyard. In both Walter and Snoopy's fantasies, these dull settings become stages of internal reflection dressed as escape. Mitty's car turns into a cockpit, and Snoopy's doghouse becomes a Sopwith camel soaring above the clouds. Their escapism then becomes a way to reclaim control and identity. The pockets between harsh realities, much like Slowinski argued, they aim to rewrite the terms of their existence. Both characters defy their traditional roles. Snoopy began as an ordinary silent beagle but evolved into a verbal, imaginative, anthropomorphic figure who resists the limits of being just a dog. Similarly, Walter Mitty challenges traditional masculinity, treated more like a child than a man by his wife who in one scene dictates his clothes. He also fails at driving, which at the time period was a very masculine activity. Schultz's Flying Ace Snoopy seems almost like a cartoon reincarnation of Walter Mitty's fantasies. The roles Mitty plays in his dreams are very patriarchal: a Navy commander, ace surgeon, superb marksman, and a World War I bomber pilot. The Flying Ace reads as a literalization of Mitty's fourth daydream, or in general, of the emasculated American, the same pulp hero archetype transplanted into war suburbia. Each sees himself as heroic, yet both always end up defeated. Walter Mitty's fantasies conclude with him facing the firing squad, noble but utterly powerless. Snoopy, after every daring fight, ends up shot down again. These defeats aren't failures of the imagination, they're commentaries on modern heroism itself. Both characters parody the old American ideal of the strong, decisive man of action. In their place, however, we find dreamers, fragile, self-aware, and quietly comic. Moreover, the way the people around them react to their daydreaming sharpens the critique. Walter Mitty's wife treats his drifting mind as a flaw to be corrected, nagging him back into the narrow script of respectable, efficient masculinity. Charlie Brown, meanwhile, often responds to Snoopy's fantasies with a mix of confusion, exasperation, and gentle resignation. Both figures function as quiet reinforcers of social norms. They pull the daydreamer back to earth, reminding him of the expectations they are failing to meet. Their judgment, whether anxious or parental, reveals how imagination itself becomes suspicious in a culture that prizes productivity and control. Through both narratives, the hero is not a soldier or commander, but the everyday person, or dog, who is fragile, who tries to stay whole in a world that demands them sameness.
Their small rebellions of the mind, a daydream, or a comic fight become symbols of humanity itself in a century of political tension, and more importantly, in a world that is perpetually uncertain. So when Gen Z turns Snoopy into a comfort icon, they're not doing something new. They're tapping into the deeply human question of what is it like to be human. Like Walter Mitty before him, Snoopy shows us that imagination can and has always been a lifeline, a way for people to endure uncertainty, to make sense of pressure, and to carve out tiny pockets of freedom when the world feels unyielding. Much of this has already been said by Slowinski in her book. Because the truth is, people don't stop dreaming when life gets difficult. We dream harder, we dream louder. We dream to find ourselves again in the world where reality feels too small or too heavy. And whether it's a timid man slipping into a daydream cockpit or a dog climbing onto a red doghouse, the message is the same. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is imagine another world. Buckle up and to keep trying to reach it. It's how you make sense of the world that's below you.